My name is Rita O'Neill, and I was given the opportunity to be McNeil Cemetery Board's chair, and with this, I am MC for today's event. My husband Rob and I live the only farm on this road we purchased from the Mathers 35 years ago. Both of our families have made Priceville home. Since last year, we were experiencing an empty house as our son Derek and his family purchased his first home in Priceville, and our daughter Caitlin purchased their first home in Bootjack Ranch Road. Our oldest son Kyle and his wife Jocelyn have made their home in Innisfail, Alberta. I have to slip in here that I am a grandmother of two beautiful girls, Emma and Reese. We make many daily trips by the cemetery, and in discussions with Emma and learning new words, she first called the cemetery heaven, and I wasn't sure if I should correct her. I believe it is the best kept and most beautiful cemetery everywhere. It shows to others that we care of our community and who came before us. I hope this never changes. This is the 71st McNeil Cemetery Remembrance Service. The first one began in 1949. This is tradition. We would like to thank Wayne Kinsman for one of our board members. He painted the roof of the shed. Looks really nice. And we would like to thank our newest board member, Todd Stoddard, for joining our team. Our names and phone numbers are listed in the newsletter. Just a few announcements. There's an accessible portable washroom on the south side of the shed. Every year we like to take a moment and show off our beautiful columbarium. The etching and side panels reflect our history and wonderful area we live. The cemetery board and community continue to be very proud of it. Ken McIntyre told me today that the large maple trees actually came from my farm, the Mathers farm, many, many years ago. Also, I'd like to bring your attention to the Vimy oak tree. It's right back there. And it was inspired by the heroic victory of the Canadian forces at Vimy Ridge. This year again, you will see our veterans' graves marked with the Canadian flag. We can never forget. This past year, the board decided it was time for tree maintenance and removal, which is described in our newsletter. The Pioneer History Project has started, and Bonnie McNeil and team started gathering information. If you are interested in contributing or participating, please see Bonnie, the mailing list. Please ensure you and your family update your contact information at either of the gates when you arrive. The benefit of being on the mailing list, you will receive our newsletter and an invitation to this event. There are a few copies here if you did not get one. Mark Doig, the editor, is always looking for interest items and suggestions for future speakers. We truly do want to hear from you so you can hear from us. It always amazes me of the excellent turnout of this event. We can all thank Mark Doig for her energy and commitment to the McNeil Cemetery annual event. She does all the work and makes us all look good. So please show Mark Doig our appreciation. Following today's remembrance service, please don't rush off, as I am sure there is someone here looking for you. I would hate for you to miss an opportunity to reconnect, so don't rush away. As we begin today's anniversary service, or remembrance service, the cemetery board would like to extend its deepest appreciation and thanks to Jackie Ralph Brown for her music, bagpipers Bill McMeekin and Peter McPhail, Hank Klustebor for his words. We would also like to give a huge thanks to Doug Harrison for the year-long commitment to the maintenance of our cemetery. Again, give Doug Harrison a huge thank you. So let's all please stand for O Canada.
O Canada.
We see
what you could do is sit down. It might be easier to sit down and sing our hymns. So the hymn we've chosen is What a Friend We Have in Jesus. In keeping with tradition, we will now take a few minutes to remember those who have entered into the past year. Don Eckert, June Mills, Marilyn McNeil, Cornelius Ilihan, Marjorie McIntyre, Bob McMaster, Sheldon Mills, Martin Stonehouse, Loretta Parks. Let's observe 1 minute of silence in honor of them, as well as those who have gone before us, especially those who lay peacefully at rest here and at the Pioneer Cemetery. Thank you. Okay, Jackie Ralph Brown. Maybe tell us a little bit about you before you give us her music.
So I'm always so honored to say I'm the oldest of all the McIntyre grandkids. That's always really something I enjoy saying. So I am Mary Ralph's daughter, who was Mary McIntyre, who was the oldest of, by minute or not? You're the second oldest. Second oldest. You are the oldest. Yes. Notice how she corrected me there. That was good. Of Jean and Robert McIntyre's children. So this is always a pleasure and an honor to be able to come and share some music with you. So I just picked some of my favorites. I hope you enjoy them too. This first one is it's just a perfect song for today, and it's "Oh, How Great Thou Art." My God, how high in awesome wonder, consider all the worlds thy hands have made. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And when my God cries with acclamation, and lead me home, what joy shall fill my heart? Then I shall bow with humble adoration, and then proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art, how great thou art, how great thou So I do quite a bit of singing out and about. My favorite places are the dayaways and the nursing homes, and I try and get up there as much as I can to 4-6, which at our Owen Sound Hospital, which is our psychogeriatric floor. They don't get as many visitors up there as some of the other places. And one of the songs they just every song they love to do is songs that bring back memories, because that's what we always have, regardless of where we are, is we always have our memories. So this is one of their favorite songs to sing, so I hope you enjoy it too. It's In the Garden. And we do a disc switch again. For me, when I sing songs, I like to sing ones that make a connection with me, and it's really great how there's lots of songs that will do that. There's lots of songs that are a story and mean a lot to different people. And I just love this one. It's John Denver, so it's not so much a hymn as it is a story. And the reason I like this song so much is it just reminds us that sometimes we go off in different directions as we grow up, and that sometimes maybe that path we chose ended up with more obstacles in it than it did celebrations. And so this song just always reminds me that regardless of where we end up that day, today, wherever we are now, if it's not the perfect day, if it's not the perfect place, the best place you can go on those days is just go home. Go home might be a place, it might be a person, but just wherever you feel comfortable and wherever you can find that person who can be an ear and can be some support. So that's why I sing this song, because that's what this song reminds me of. Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, blowing like a breeze. Country roads take me home to a place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home, country roads. All my memories gather round her, miner's lady, stranger to blue water. Dark and dusty, painted on the sky, misty taste of moonshine, teardrop in my eye. Country roads, take me home to a place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home, country roads. I hear her voice in the morning, how she calls me. The radio reminds me of my home far away. Driving down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday, country roads, take me home to a place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, country roads, take me home to a place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, take me home. Down country roads, take me home. Down country roads. And if it's okay, I got one last song to sing. Sorry. It's like, got her. We didn't have to read it. So I lied. There's one more. So I brought this one too, and you know, as much as today is a memorial and it's an event where we remember, it's also a day where we celebrate. We celebrate that we all got together, that we get to see family that we haven't seen in so long, and we get to celebrate that, you know, we made it another year. There's so many pieces about today that are also a celebration. And so this song to me, it's just fun, it's catchy, it's an old Hank Williams tune. While he had lots of songs about things you shouldn't be doing, he had lots of songs about some beautiful gospel tunes. So this is just one of those, and I just love how it makes my heart feel, and every now and then it also makes my bum wiggle, and that's important too. So if you know it, you can sing it. It's just a really catchy song. I wandered so aimless, life filled with sin. I wouldn't let my dear Savior in. Then Jesus came like a stranger in the night. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. I saw the light, I saw the light. No more worthless, no more night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrows inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. Just like a blind man, I wandered along. Worries and fears I saved for my own. Then, like the blind man, that God gave back his sight. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. I saw the light, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Now I'm so happy.
Thank you, Jackie. I could listen to you all day. It wasn't purposely that I walked up here, so. Okay, guest speaker. My dad, Hank Kloosterboer. How do I introduce him? I want to say that there's probably 40, put your hand up if you're related to or connected to Lawrence, to Hank Kloosterboer. So we've got a lot of family here, so we are excited for Dad. So here's my go at it. A while back, B. Wilton approached Dad if he would speak at today's event on his immigration to this great country of Canada. Dad certainly hesitated, but as you can see, he is accepted and is here today. Dad is always up for an adventure and a challenge, and his family are very proud of him to try something brand new to him at age 88 years of age. B. and Lloyd Wilton moved to their farm in 1968 and became our family's best friend for over 50 years, and still today are a big part of our lives. So Dad could not say no when asked to do this. It is interesting as life plays out and how we cross paths. Just to name a few, Mom and Dad's next door neighbor, Wallace and Shirley Meads, had a connection to Holland. As the last 5 days of the war, Wallace battled in my parents' area. Another neighbor, Rose Burnett, she was a war bride, and in 1946 from Holland, and their girls, Katie and Margaret Rose, yes, Marg Doig, who is the big part of McNeil Cemetery, were our babysitters. As some of you know, Dad and I do a lot of visiting, and on Sunday, just a few weeks ago, we were visiting with Tom Mather, and we were discussing McNeil Cemetery. Tom was responsible for digging graves here from 1969 to 1978, that followed by Ken Harrison, which after Dad and Farker McKinnon, and then Dad and Don McAlpine. Dad has dug graves at this site for over 20 years, so he knows the cemetery well. Mom is resting here. This community is just a wonderful area where we take care of each other and do what is needed to be done. I would like to think that it's the Canadian way. My parents called Canada their home, and in traveling when they were always so proud to be Canadians. When Joan and I traveled with Dad to Holland and we visited relatives, they would still ask Dad if he was happy if he had immigrated to Canada, and his consistent reply, it was the best decision he made. Dad's motto is, you have to get up every day to do something. So today, his something is giving us insight into his immigration to Canada and this community. He has prepared this with the help of Joan and of his journey. Dad?
Good afternoon. My name is Hank Kloosterboer, and I came to Canada when I was 18 years old and have been here now for 70 years in this beautiful part of the country. This is my home, and I love it here. It feels like our family arrived in the right area at the right time. I was the only son, second youngest with 3 sisters. We were farmers in Holland and lived through the Second World War, which wasn't easy. We lived on the east side of Holland, not too far from the German border, near the town of Almen, in the province of Gelderland. After the Canadians liberated Holland, we had the Canadians camping on our farm, and I visited them as often as I could. They may have had an interest in my sisters, but they were good to me. One of my best friends was Herman Koslag. His family immigrated to Canada in 1948, just a little north of Durham on Highway 6. Herman wrote me letters every week, and his description of Canada, the size of the farms, the many opportunities and the jobs, I fell in love with Canada. My sister Bertha was engaged to Herman's brother Bill, so she was going to Canada regardless, and so was I. My parents, Jerry and Johanna, said that if anyone is going, the whole family is going. My mother was keen to go. My father, not so much, as he had a good job in town, and one of my other sisters, Ricky, was dating someone in Holland. But my parents made a deal with her to give her 2 years in Canada, and if she wanted to go back, she could. She did not go back. When the decision was made to immigrate to Canada, a sponsor was required, and one must work for the sponsor for 1 year. The Koslags helped arrange this with the same sponsor they had, Mr. Rumble from Lowrams Farms in Durham. We had to have x-rays and doctor's certificates before we could leave Holland, and they couldn't be older than 6 months. We were the first in our area to immigrate to Canada, so the week leading up to our departure, there was a gathering of our place and friends and neighbors, and pictures were taken. These same people took us with a bus to see us off at the dock. There was even a picture taken on the Sunday of the last church service we attended. My father was an elder at the church. Imagine our surprise when my daughters Joan and Rita and I went to Holland in 2012 and visited the church, and the picture was still on the bulletin board. We sailed in June of 1949 on the ship Volendam, taken 9 days to cross the ocean. Previous to the war, the Volendam was an ocean liner for first, tourist, and third-class passengers. During the war, it was converted to transfer troops, and following the war, to transfer immigrants. We had to have a landing cards, which is a legal document required when arriving in a new country, which records our entry. The men and women were separated, and many people suffered from seasickness. Unfortunately, Mom and my sisters were part of that group. Dad and I were lucky, as we did not get sick. We were able to sit on deck and enjoy the ride, and lots of good food. So the dining room was never full. We landed in Quebec City and were given name tags with our destination. From there, we took a train through Montreal to Toronto. In Toronto, we were instructed to remain in the same train car and would be reconnected to the proper route. When we got to Guelph, Bill Koslag and Mr. McNeil were waiting. How they knew where to go, I will never know. The switch happened so fast. They picked up Mom and the girls, while Dad and I would continue on the train. My sister Bertha was so excited to see her Bill and expected a big hug, but nothing. Just packed the girls in the car and off they went. She thought it was over. I bet it was a long ride to Durham, but it wasn't over. I guess he didn't want to show affection in public. A year later, they were married in the Durham Presbyterian Church. The train carried on to Palmerston. It was a main hub at the time, and we had to switch to another train to go to Durham. We were left on the platform and worried, as we could not speak a word of English. How did we know where to go? All we could do was point at our name tags, showing our destination, and trust we were showing the right train. Well, we got on the right train and were on our way. But when we got to Varney, the train engineer stopped the train, as there was a ball game going on in town, and he was going to watch it. We were so anxious to get to Durham, and just so close, but had to wait. Our family stayed in a little white house north of Durham. My father was 50 years old when he came to Canada, and he was given a job to take post holes by hand. That is not an easy job at the best of times, especially in this area where there are stones. He was not used to that for 2 reasons. He had an office job in Holland, and my mother was the real farmer. And there are no stones in Holland. In fact, the stone was a treasure when found. When coming to this country, there are rules. We were allowed $100 each, but we could bring crates of furniture and implements. Some even brought cars. Of course, you had to pay by weight. My mother had packed the stone for her pickle crock. Imagine her surprise when everywhere you look, there are stones. And they paid to bring one. The crate that was used to bring our goods was quite large and put to good use as a shed beside the little white house. My first job in Canada was working for Joe Crutchley. I could not have been more lucky. This was a great job, and he was a good man, a good family, and boy, could his wife have met a cook. I began to learn English here. Anything I had in my hand, Joe made me say the English word and repeat it. In about a month, he and I could communicate pretty well. Not so with his wife. When she couldn't get the message across, she kept speaking louder. I wasn't deaf. I just couldn't understand. I'm sure it also bothered her that I could communicate with Joe. But he and I worked together all day. He trusted me to do a lot of things, including driving the tractor, which I loved. I did have to endure some good teasing from the 4 Crutchley girls, but they were all good to me. Sometimes I didn't really know if they were teasing or what they wanted because of the language barrier. It was also here that I got to know Farquhar Oliver, as he was Joe Crutchley's brother-in-law. He would play a big part of our future. We found the people here very nice and willing to go above and beyond to help us. When the sponsorship year was up, my dad was ready to buy a farm, and one was found in Glenelg Township on the North Line, not far from Priceville, owned by Alfred Hinks. But Dad didn't have enough down payment to buy the farm. So Harold McNeil, another brother-in-law of Joe Crutchley, stepped up and bought the farm and then sold it to Dad. By the way, this was the McLaughlin farm prior to that. It had no electricity and needed some repairs. Dad redid the stables in the barn, added a basement to the house, and built the garage, which is still standing. The house is not. Dad wanted electricity and was not having much success with hydro to install it, as not enough people were signing up. So one day, Farquhar Oliver stopped in on the farm and asked, "Jerry, do you want electricity?" And when he replied yes, Farquhar said he would make it happen, and he did. Farquhar told him to go ahead and start getting the wiring done in the house and barn. Remember my friend Herman? Well, he became an electrician, and he did the wiring in the house and barn. When the man from Hydro came to work on our road, my mother was given the contract to feed them. Many years later, my daughter Joan was talking to one of those linesmen, and he told her that her grandmother fed them well and that she made the best dandelion wine. During that time, I worked hard because I wanted my own farm, and I also had someone special I was seeing. Joanne's family, the Lusinks, immigrated to Canada in 1950, a year later than us. They entered Canada at Pier 21 in Halifax. They were sponsored by a family near Holstein and eventually bought a farm in Harriston. Joanne and I had dated a few times before we left Holland, and we rode each other often during the year apart. The Carson Farm in Artemisia, Concession 2, on the other side of the town line, came up for sale just down the road from my parents. But I didn't have enough money. Father Oliver came through again and helped arrange a junior farmer's loan so I could buy it. However, in order to get the loan, I had to be married or have a wedding date. So while Joanne and I were already engaged, I had to provide a wedding date on the spot. Luckily, she was okay with the date chosen. We got married on June 11th, 1955, and 4 children followed: Joan, Ed, Rita, and Jerry. Also in 1955, I got my citizenship papers and was so proud. You had to live in Canada for 5 years before applying to be a citizen. In those early years, I worked at various jobs to make some money. One was at the old McGowan mill, McGowan Falls in Durham, which is Schutz's cement block factory when I worked there. When the flue was dismantled, I was able to buy the lumber and bought it for the floorboards for our barn addition, which is still there. I bought a baler and a combine and did a lot of custom work. I also cut a lot of trees. 50 acres was not enough to make a living on, so the farm was for sale for a little while until the 150 acres farm across the road came up for sale and we bought it. Eventually, we got into dairy farming. I also want to add that in 1978, when I was having some health issues and all of the kids were either married or in school, there was no way I wanted any of them to give up school to come back to the farm. In a good Canadian way, our neighbors and friends came through and helped us when we needed them, and we couldn't be more appreciative. In 1984, when we retired from farming, we built a house and moved down the road again. Our son and his family bought the farm and lived there still. I could say that I've lived in 3 different places on the same road for 68 years. We raised a great family and have wonderful friends. Wouldn't trade any of it. Canada is a great country.
He did it. What a great job. Oh. So the next, it will be a freewheeling offering, and Bill McNeil and Peter McPhail will be playing on their bagpipes, and the collectors will be Doug Hutchison, Doug Harrison, Leonard Odell, and Wayne Kinsman. And it's actually, I asked Mark Doig who picked the hymn, and she was hesitant to tell me, but she said, me. And I said, well, it's really significant to my mom and dad because at their wedding, Mom and her sister, Deanie, stood up and sang this hymn. So come to the church in the Wildwood. So it's pretty cool.
To the church in the wildwood, oh come to the church in the dale. No spot is so dear to my childhood as the little brown church in the valley by the wildwood. No lovelier place in the dale. No spot
I was asked to do the benediction, so may the Lord bless you and take good care of you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord look on you with favor and give you peace. This brings the 71st annual remembrance to a close. Thank you.